A more than 200-year-old granary built by the British in India's eastern Bihar state is facing neglect. Work on the massive granary was started during the famine of 1770 and completed in 1786. The structure is 29 metres high and the walls 3.6 metres wide at the base. Granary, or Golghar as it is more well known, has been constructed entirely out of bricks and red sand. It has a winding stairway with 142 steps leading up to the summit of the dome. Cracks in the building first came to notice in 1998 when state authorities emptied the granary, after which it was handed over to the archaeological department. Vibrations produced due to heavy vehicles passing on the nearby road have added to the damage. Ajay Kumar Sinha, Director of Archaeology at Bihar, says experts have been assessing the damage and repair work is beginning. Sinha said the monument would be open for tourists once renovation was completed. Residents say they've submitted a memorandum to the authorities requesting immediate action, but nothing is being done. One unique feature of this monument is that an echo is heard 27 times, which is the maximum when compared to any other domed structure in the world. Mount Gilai, one of the most powerful steam engines built for meter-gauge tracks, left Nairobi, Kenya's capital city, in full service for the first time in many years. It was among 34 locomotives that first went into service in Kenya in 1955. Fittingly, the 34 locomotives were named after the highest peaks in East Africa and became known as the mountain class. In the mid-1970s, the mountain class, by then pulling goods trains, began to be withdrawn, and in the early 1990s they were cut for scrap. However, two survived. After a decision was made to put Mount Gilai back into service, it took 3 months of renovation work to bring her back to working order. Pensioners had to be called up from retirement to help with the work and run the locomotive. It's been a long journey for many of them. And it was a proud moment for Kirpal Singh, who drove Mount Gilai for 17 years. It's hoped that this locomotive can be used for a special safari steam service on the Mombasa Voi line. Built by colonialists, the line opened up the East African interior. For Ngugi Mubaya of Eco Farm, a locally incorporated tour company, it's been a trying time. He's organised and coordinated the renovation of Mount Gelai. And the revival of this steam engine has aroused great interest among train enthusiasts worldwide. Seeing the African countryside and wildlife from a classic train is an exciting prospect. It's hoped this steam engine will provide a necessary boost for Kenya's ailing tourism industry. Which is often plagued by poor infrastructure, security worries, and competition from other African destinations. Armed with a hammer and chisel, Habimana works at a slow but determined pace. Gouging flakes of wood out of the planks before him, he appears every bit the local carpenter, fashioning a new piece of furniture. With the wood still so raw, it's difficult to guess just what the final product will be. A sofa, perhaps. Or even a bed. But take a closer look, and you'll be surprised to see that this isn't a table or chair, but an ibisugudu, or wooden bicycle. David Habimana makes a living sculpting these wooden bicycles. Although Habimana has no formal training in woodwork, 10 years of bicycle making has taught him that every inch has to be measured just so. Assembling these unusual machines takes hours of quality craftsmanship. If he has all the materials he requires, Habimana needs just a week to cobble the bike together. In any 1 month, he can expect to spin out 4 or 5 of them. And these bikes sell for anything up to $15 depending on the sort of wood used. Those fortunate enough to own more modern metal bicycles manufactured abroad tend to look down on this rustic wood apparatus. However, the bikes provide a valuable means of living in this country where poverty prevails. Over 1,000 kids make their daily money from running loads to and fro. For these boys from poor families, wooden bicycles are a way of life. In this tiny nation where poverty rules, education is not always the first priority. Despite the fact that authorities believe there's only one place for kids, that being school. In the meantime, these wooden bikes provide many children with employment that they otherwise might not have. Hindu devotees in India's southern Kerala state have a unique way of appeasing their favourite deity. Pierce their cheeks and dance to the tune of the wild beat of drums. Some even walk on fire. Commonly known as Kavatiyatam, the ritual is an expression of devotion and gratitude to their deity. Lord Muruga, or Subramanyam, the second son of Lord Shiva, the Hindu god of destruction. Hundreds of devotees in the capital Trivandrum city pierced themselves with arrows amid chanting of hymns and playing of drums. Devotees believe that only a chosen few can enact the ritual. Madhu, a driver by profession, said he has been undertaking this ritual for many years. A colourful procession was taken out with a flower and peacock feather bedecked chariot carrying the idol of Lord Muruga. In the last stage of the three-day festival, the staunchest of believers walk over burning coal. While real estate developers and city planners cooperate in giving Beijing a facelift, a retired railroad employee has been on a mission of his own to preserve on paper the capital city's original look. For over 16 years, Shunli Ao has stuck to his self-appointed task of mapping the labyrinth of alleyways running between ancient courtyard houses in the old imperial district of the city. These alleyways, called hutong, have been falling victim to the wrecking ball, particularly from the early 1990s when the city government handed developers the power to move residents out by compensating them. In the aftermath since the passing of the policy, only a few hundred of the original 3,000 hutong crisscrossing the old city remain. Xu Liao began his project in 1987 when he stumbled across a large map of Beijing dating back to the Qing dynasty from 1644 to 1911. He felt inspired to draw up a map of his own, documenting what the city looked like 700 years later. After experimenting with a tape measure, he finally settled for measuring the hutong with his feet, taking down the number of his steps and converting it into meters back at home. He now spends most days translating his numbers into sketches, working on one table-sized piece of the map at a time. His drawings are not exact, but are works of art that include notes in the margins explaining each alleyway's name and other anecdotes, information he picked up in conversation with hutong residents. The hutong concept dates back to the Yuan dynasty of 800 years ago, when courtyard houses were built to house the ruling Mongolian elite. Since Mao's revolution in 1949, these historical buildings have degenerated into an urban slum. They're overcrowded and unsanitary. But many residents living in hutong still standing today refuse to believe that the alternative, a modern apartment complex, could be superior. As the walls of hutong, even in ostensibly protected historical zones, came tumbling down in preparation for the Olympics, preservationists called for a stop to development in the old city area. In response, city officials finally refused to ratify new imperial city renovation projects. And while preservationists argue it's not enough and petition the city for even stronger measures, Xu Liao continues to quietly sketch away at his map. And over the last couple of years, he has turned out 7 large sheets. He estimates his representation of Beijing will be larger than 26 square meters when finished. He still has about 18 sheets left to go. History for some is one of the more exciting aspects of a school syllabus, even a passion, particularly for those involved in what is called living history, or more commonly known as reenactment. Military Odyssey is Europe's largest multi-period reenactment extravaganza, where groups come together to experience hands-on history. Spectators can visit the many living history displays and learn about the period from the people representing a particular era. Participants are chosen for their commitment to historical accuracy, and every aspect of their uniform to their weapons and transport must be correct, even down to the detail of the food of the period. The most exciting aspect of this extravaganza is the action on the battlefields, where an array of pitched battles take place. A whole range of periods are depicted, including World War II and World War I. One of the most spectacular reenactments was the Battle of Maidstone by the Sealed Knot. This group is dedicated to bringing to life the drama, thrill and terror during the 17th century and the English Civil War. This was the largest reenactment group at the event. The Sealed Knot claimed to be the grandfather of all reenactment groups and was established in 1969 by Brigadier Peter Young, a war hero and lecturer at Sandhurst. Since its early days, it has amassed some 6,000 people from all over Europe, although its main strength comes from Kent. The Napoleonic battle didn't include as many participants, but was a real crowd pleaser and a polished reenactment. This included groups from Poland, the Duchy of Warsaw as it was during the Napoleonic Wars. To continue the reenactment, one unfortunate deserter was rounded up to face the firing squad. The scenes may appear theatrical, but this is just one dimension that can make learning history just that little bit more exciting. And perhaps encourage future generations to explore their heritage and the true meaning of having to fight for one's citizenship. So for those of you who find history difficult to absorb from textbooks, these lively reenactments may help in filling some of those gaps in your historical knowledge. "300 vintage cars and 100 motorbikes came together in San Isidro on the outskirts of Buenos Aires as part of the biggest festival of classic cars in South America. The vehicles, all restored to their original splendor, were joined by an auto-jumble collection of vintage accessories to add color to the exhibition, which is now in its 4th season. All the cars in the show, which was organized by the Classic Cars Club of Argentina, date from before 1979, with many well-known names like Mercedes and Rolls-Royce making an appearance. Horatio Corton, who visited the exhibition, said he had grown up at a time when some of the vintage vehicles were in use. But for many, it was an opportunity to witness a time long past, as cars of yesterday sparkled like new for vintage car aficionados and collectors. According to Vlado Bujakisic, a member of the Argentine Classic Cars Club, those exhibiting their cars do so partly because of the pride they take in their vehicles and in the work they have done restoring them to pristine condition. The club organised the festival to celebrate the preservation of restoration of some of the most elegant cars of all time, and to pay homage to the history of the automobile industry in Argentina. Visitors to the show were treated to cars from all over the country, as well as vehicles used for military purposes and for public transport. Prizes were awarded in various categories, while the Auto Jumble contained manuals, books, magazines, toys and accessories related to vintage cars and the automobile industry. The club organised the festival to celebrate the preservation and restoration of some of the most elegant cars of all time, and to pay homage to the history of the automobile industry in Argentina. A flying carpet, Vincent van Gogh's cut-off ear, or the sound of the sinking Titanic are just some of the exhibits visitors in the small eastern German town of Köritz, northwest of Berlin, find when they visit Germany's Lies Museum and Gatterkau Castle. The artworks on display in 8 rooms, some stranger than others, have become so popular that the original museum, which was founded in the 1980s, has moved to this home with the blessing of the local town government. The Lies Museum was accepted as a member of the German Museum Association in 1995. One of the museum's highlights is the Psychedelia Maschine, a conscience-widening installation made of household garbage, which makes it possible to simulate world conscience, according to the museum. A tombstone in the museum's small park is dedicated to a woman called Emma von Hebusser. It does not say who she was or when she lived, but rumor has it Emma was in reality a chicken. Visitors arriving at Schloss Gatterkau Castle quickly discover that the castle is not really a castle, but a rather modest building. Visitors leaving Schloss Gatterkau will have discovered that they don't have to believe anything they see or hear here. Why? Because it's all made up.